Hi, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from MasonWorks Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone today with Aaron Glassman. Hi, Aaron.
Hi, Kathy.
Good morning on a
Good
snowy
morning.
morning.
On a what morning?
Snowy morning.
Yeah, it's a beautiful spring day.
Yeah, yeah. Aaron lives here in Boulder, Colorado, too. So we can talk about the weather and for
Yeah,
Missouri.
let's spend an hour talking about the weather.
No,
That should
no,
really engage everybody now.
no. Everyone, the reason why I wanted you to meet Aaron is because he's quite remarkable young man. He's got a wonderful way for leaders and other conscious business people to really learn how to co-create with the universe in the quantum field, the unified field, in a different way. It's not your usual law of attraction conversation. This is way past that. And so you really want to know about this. So Aaron, so let's start with the name of your site is Science of Love 528.
That
And
is
I'm
true.
showing his site right here. And good morning. Morning, Angie's here.
Good
Anyway,
morning.
so tell us about Science of Love 528, if you could.
To me, Science of Love represents the merging of the two extremes, which is what I am just so passionate about speaking about, because I believe that's where our transcendence, that's where our power resides. So when you are able to deal with science, the material world, the physical world, reality, and see it not as separate from creation, which is love, which is everything, right? And we merge that consciousness together, we get the power of presence, which is the heart center, which is 528. And that gives us our ability to connect to the unlimited, infinite potential and our real creative power.
Yep. 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 Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And Zach is here too, so I'm sure Zach's going to give us some comments too.
Uh-oh.
So yeah, no, it's a good thing.
Okay,
He's
good.
brilliant, and he's a scientist too. So what happens is he's a conscious scientist, which is kind of a
Beautiful.
unique
Well,
thing. So yeah, it's great. It's great. So the 528, as I know, is the frequency that the megahertz that
uh-huh.
the heart resonates with. And so when we talk about connecting to that in business, that's been a very well, it's an evolving thing right now. It's almost like we look at that in a future possibility rather than right now. And you're offering processes to bring it into existence and usable right now, right?
Well, is there any other time other than right now? You know, there is
Okay.
no more future, and there is such a compression happening on the planet right now for all of us to really step into our creative power. And what I mean by that is aligning with a power far beyond what our mental constructs or our thinking minds can do. And so this is about creating from a whole new evolved state of being that is going to inform our actions out into the physical world in a whole elevated other level that can create the impact and change we really want to and need to see on the planet. You know, it's that Einstein quote, right? We're not going to be able to solve the world's problems today with the same level of consciousness it took to create them. So we're not going to create new consciousness by new thoughts, or in the sense that it's going to be something new that we're going to read necessarily. It's going to come from an evolved state of being and alignment that is going to energetically shift us, catapult us into a whole new state of creation. Yeah.
Yes.
And we need the many rather than the few to be able to access this now and create from that place to really implement the change.
Well, I see what your work, and I'm very excited about it. I see it as the new paradigm for leaders, for conscious leaders, and anyone that's a small business owner is a leader, anyone that's a head of a volunteer group, even PTA leaders. I mean, everywhere people are starting to want more, want a better connection, wanting to have love as the atmosphere of everything they do. They're sick of all the conflict and the polarity of everything, and they want to choose something different. It's a leap from where we are right now, which the construct is 3D, 4D, if you want to call it, to go to this pure love, which is not polarity, which I'm calling fifth dimension, and it's just a name for it, but it's
Sure.
a place of being. So, Aaron, I know that on April 30th, you did an event with Barbara Marx Hubbard up at,
March 28th, actually.
oh, I'm sorry,
I
28th.
think today's April 30th.
Okay. Oh, thanks.
Well, I did do an
Sorry.
event with her in the
March
astral
28th.
plane. Yeah. Yeah.
Day is it? Okay. So
Yeah.
anyway, I know I was just coming back from the Bahamas and I didn't get
Right.
to go, but anyway, I did get to see the film of it, the video of it. And Barbara Marx Hubbard, if everyone in the audience has heard of her, was a futurist. She just passed. Your event that you did with her was one of the last things she did.
It was the last live event that she
Yeah,
did.
it's amazing. So cool.
Mhm.
And she loved you and she loved what you were doing and wanted you to help her bring and land her futurist, which she was talking about this whole time period as a rebirth, which
Mhm.
love that rather than everyone talking about it. It's, everything's collapsing. I'd rather think of the rebirth idea of it, or a birth is a little painful and then cool stuff, right? Because you just got
Well, and that there's no separation. So actually, crisis actually leads to rebirth. So that they actually move together as one. And we can choose to only look limited that at the crisis and not see it as also a rebirth, which creates more suffering and a sense of defeat, within each and every one of us. Or we recognize that the breaking down of all these structures that have been so powerfully in charge, this masculine energetic that's been dominant on the planet, is breaking down so a whole new energetic can be born. And when we look at it like that, then this is what I loved about Barbara, is she was always able to look at it from that holistic perspective with this great childlike wonder and optimism that was so infectious, and so amazing to see. She was just about 90 years old and still absolutely feeling like it was the first day of a whole new world. And that was exciting to be around.
But see, that's what I like about you is I think you have that too. I think that you have a curiosity and a wonder and an excitement about life that's part of the recipe for success. Your success is that it's not about drive, go make more money, do it, put that notch on your belt. It's not that. You're actually out there co-creating with the universe in a conscious way. And the idea that I assume everyone that coaches with you gets to learn how to do that. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I mean, that's I was thinking, I know so many people in the coaching industry. I don't consider myself a coach. I consider myself a transformational leader or a facilitator. But all of these coaches usually lead with, you want to make more money, you want to have the perfect relationship in your life or whatever that is. And it's still based on external reality, providing you with an internal experience or feeling. And it's all backwards from my perspective. And so what I really teach and share and get people to experience is a state of being, an elevated state of being that allows them to understand and feel the higher vibrational frequencies of their multidimensional self, which allows them to create the external reality from a whole new level that's going to have them experience a whole new level of joy, peace, and abundance. But I can't lead with, I'll turn your business into a 7-figure business, because that, I know I've done that. I've done that. I've lived in that one extreme of being on the external focus of do, right?
Me too.
And you obtain the goal, and guess what? You want the next goal, and you're just on this spinning wheel of desires and goals. And that's what, of course, the Buddha teachings is that humanity suffering, right, comes from our desires. And when it's reversed and it's coming from a vibrational frequency that is unified with the unified field, God, spirit, whatever you want to call it, it takes on this incredible momentum and experience of elevated joy, peace, and abundance. And that's what I teach.
And I keep going back to the fact that I think it's wonderful that you have a way to experientially shift people so that they can get an experience of co-creating with the unified field, because that's empowerment.
Yes.
What we've been living in is this victim mindset, and anything that I can do to help people that are breaking us out of empowerment, I want to do that. This is the time. We were never supposed to be playing it small. We're the universe experiencing itself.
Right.
It wants to play. It wants to
Mm-hmm.
have fun. It wants to create and make art and sing and dance. It doesn't want to stay stuck and we're worried in living in the past.
Right.
Basically,
And
a lot of it.
absolutely. The universe wants us to create. And what I always emphasize is that the creative process, creation, requires the marriage, right, of those polarities of masculine and feminine energetic. However, the foundation must come from this state of being, which would be a state of being a feminine energetic, right? Creating from a place of a vibrational frequency that you want to expand into more of, and then learning how to take that energy and bring it into the physical world reality. And that's what Barbara always kind of struggled with. She had the grand, beautiful vision. She was a beautiful being.
Visionary.
She always had trouble really bringing it down into actionable cognitive steps that people could really tangibly work and create structure in that physical world reality. And that's where I believe my greatest talent is being able to walk that whole creative process through and assisting people in that.
Yes, and that's the perfect recipe, really. The other thing I wanted to comment on is that I think, as a woman, as a business owner, I mean, I've worked mostly for myself most of my adult life. I've had to take on the attributes of the type A male. So I think the rebalance is in everybody. I don't think it's just males rebalancing with their divine feminine. It's not about searching for someone else to complete you and create that balance. It's me rebalancing my divine feminine with my divine masculine, because I've had to activate my divine masculine so much to be successful in business. That's the game we've been playing, right? And now we can be whole and complete, and then find another person in a relationship and be whole and complete and meet them there, rather than have these missing parts. Everything's been external instead of looking within and healing within.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Becoming unified within ourselves creates a wholeness. And when we experience a wholeness within ourselves, we're not looking for someone else to fill the holes, right? And, being married for almost 10 years, our dance has been one of not, being aware of where we may blame someone for how we're feeling, but bringing conscious awareness back to it. Oh, this is something that is wanting to be healed or experienced or brought to consciousness through me. And in doing so, we evolve together because we're committed to our wholeness, but we need each other. We do need each other to point out where the holes are within each other, because it's a lifelong process, right? It's never like I'm whole and I'm done. As much as I would like to believe that, there's always another level of beingness that we will get to experience if we're open and available for it. And it requires courage, it requires commitment, it requires consistency, and it requires a willingness to dance. I always say a willingness to just, get on a dance floor and stumble or fall on your feet, but a willing to play in relationship with yourself in life, all of that. So when we acknowledge that and value that, then we don't need to project it out into the world, and that's how we make big shifts on the planet.
So I've got a couple comments here that are coming in, and I hope it's okay. I'll just read a couple. And welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. Zach wrote, agreement. Most look for creation with the male force model in terms of things. Instead, take the inner journey, align with love, which are the higher frequencies, and everything else will reflect this state. It's not necessary to strive for anything in the physical. The physical, four lower bodies, are only indicators of how we're doing, removing the blocks to the awareness of love. He's got some more, but
Thank you, Zach.
thank you, Zach. And then Angie LaRue put, when we seek another to fill us, we set ourselves up for failure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, certainly failure or a lot of pain and suffering.
Right. So Aaron, when you're talking about conscious leadership in a business model, my kind of perspective of the new business model is more team than the old pyramid hierarchy model. It's more circle. Is that the way you look at it also?
Absolutely. I believe that the new evolved state of leadership is about being able to bring people together. That leadership is truly about building bridges in all ways, shapes, and forms. So not only creating wonderful teams within whatever business you're creating and keeping it as a round table, staying open to input from all different perspectives and all different players in your business, because they're all part of this same organism of consciousness, which is what businesses really are. And of course, the leadership then moving out into local and state level and world level bridges. So leadership to me is the individual that can, fuse together two extreme, I don't want to say, but let's say two extreme ideologies, right? Like a true political candidate would be somebody who can really talk to Republicans and Democrats and not make one wrong and one right. That's what we're obviously needing in our political system, is people that can build bridges between those two ideologies and find the common ground that serve the masses.
Right. So there's a couple more messages here going on, but I wanted to talk about how the scientific principles work with the spiritual laws, because it seems to me, in my experience, it just seems like lately, all of a sudden, NASA is saying science is proving what the Hindu and the early Christian, all of the spiritual laws have always said. And then they all of a sudden, oh, we've proved it. And, it's kind of a comedy to me, but it is important, because the science allows people that may not believe in the spiritual or haven't had the experience of studying the spiritual, for them to actually grasp the truth in their way. So
absolutely.
How do you use the science and the spiritual together?
Yeah, because I believe that we need a holistic perspective of consciousness to evolve. So we're not just speaking, in an ungrounded way, because what I believe the destiny, certainly, of Western culture is the fusion of science and spirituality will be, quote unquote, the new religion. It's something that's all inclusive, that includes all states of consciousness, and that they're not separate. Science is not separate from spirituality. I wrote a saying that, science seeks to penetrate what is known. I think I'm quoting this right. And spirituality seeks to reveal the unknown. But basically they're both seeking to get to the same place, which is obviously really what I call presence. Because to say something is love is to say something is not love. And that's not possible, because all of creation is comprised of the same energy, the same building blocks of of energy, right? And consciousness. It's just in perceived in different reality forms, table, people, and all of that. But everything is creation. Everything is love. So it's really about accessing that presence and beingness to be that which we are, which is love, right? So all things are merging to that place. All roads, paths lead to that presence, and you can only really experience that presence when you don't experience separation in the world,
Right.
or
Yeah.
within yourself. Yeah.
Right. Right. So some of the processes that you do to help you get to that 0 point where you can actually get quiet enough, get still enough, and know that you are God, kind of place.
Kind of,
Is that what you
kind of
do?
Paramahansa Yogananda quote. Yeah, be still and know that I am God. Yeah, I use scientific principles. I use being a musician all my life. I use the principles of harmonics to get us into a vibratory state that accesses the heart center. And from that heart center, we experience this expansion. And from that expansion, we experience a magnetic or our energetic field that begins to unify with everything, gets us into that unlimited, infinite state.
And so once people experience that, do you then guide them how to use it? Because I know I had a white light experience, I guess it was 14, 15 years ago. And I still think of it every single day. But I went right after it happened, I wasn't sure what to do with it. It put me so far out of this reality, which was fine, but I still wanted to be in the world. So do you then show them constructs of how to stay in that beautiful space while you're still connected?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because usually us in the West, right, we have an experience like that and we do all of a sudden think, what am I going to do with this?
Or,
You know,
be with
most of the other world is like, I had an experience, and they leave it at that. You know, but we want to do something. We want to create a religion around it or whatever. So hopefully that white light experience led you to another state of being, and that state of being has integrated and infiltrated your energetic body, and people experience it on unconscious or conscious levels. What I do in my processes is it's not about leaving the body, right? And it's not only being the body, it's about getting into that infinite aspect of being, which is in the heart center. And that's a fusion, that's an integrated state of being that's neither out, in the higher dimensions, nor is it just stuck in the lower dimensions. It's really in this unified place that allows you to be in the world, but not of the world.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, that's the ticket, really, because the idea of being fearless because you're in the now,
Mm-hmm.
that I think is one of the biggest missing pieces of our society and of business. Most traditional businesses are run totally on fear. You never know if you still have your job the next day, and they manipulate, and the leadership manipulates on fear rather than love and appreciation and courtesy and the dynamic of um, of of your contribution is integral to our success. You have this other side of apathy, and actually, it's not a good productive way to be. Let's put it that way.
Well, ultimately not. I've owned several businesses. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I always have dealt with staff and the people and the way in which I did the way I would want to have been dealt with. So I worked certainly for tons of other people, and they did come from that place of control and fear, and they thought that was going to elicit the best out of people, and it doesn't. All it does is make people unhappy and scared for their jobs and all of that. I will say the other way of really having a foundational way of being, which is love. And when I say love, it's this just, really connecting and communicating from a different place, right? And one of inclusion. It takes a lot more presence. It takes a lot more commitment, because I can see, and I have been able to see from the others, being a boss, it would be so much easier if I was just leading with fear, in the sense that it would just control people to do what I want them to do so much easier.
Fast.
But ultimately, it didn't create the energetic of the company that I wanted to create.
Right, right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the best companies that I worked for was a company where we had a meeting every Monday morning and every Friday morning. And I was a small company, and we built it from 800,000 to 5 million in 2 years that I was there. I was head of sales and marketing.
Wow.
And what it was is every single, at these meetings, everyone had to come, every what do you call it? Head of their resource,
Vision.
bookkeeper, the sales, the marketing, the manufacturing, the whatever, all the resources had to come together, and they had to state what was going to happen for the week. And then on Friday, they had to show up and say whether or not it really happened. So there was and everyone was counting on that. So that communication allowed us to like take off, because there was no guessing, and everyone, you had to have each other's backs because you had committed to it. And you can't come to a meeting week after week after week and say you didn't do what you said you do on Monday, right? You can't do that. But the growth was so exponential because of that. And that's kind of that same circle, tribe, pod kind of feeling that we're talking about in this new model of where everyone shows up in their expertise and is honored and revered and respected for it and uplifted. And actually, the platform was created so they could do that, right? The support. And
so that's where leadership comes in, is someone who can hold that container and maintain the integrity of that energetic, because people will become human, and at some time someone might drop the ball or whatever. Is right. How do you bring back the integrity and the trust into that environment? So that level of leadership requires a deep sense and connection to presence and understanding how to communicate both languages, right? Structure and heart-centered energetics.
And it's also respect, though. I think that's sure. Other, when we talk about love, and the real meaning of namaste, where you really see that everybody is here as an expression, and that everything is for you, not against you. Mm-hmm. It's a whole different perspective of how to work in the world and how to share gifts, because you look at everyone as wonder what their gift is, mm-hmm. rather than what are they doing here.
How do I get them out of here?
Well, no, I don't really believe that, but I do think that this new paradigm of and it's kind of that excitement Barbara showed us at 90 years old, incredibly articulate, incredibly excited about every new day, and was on purpose, on mission, on task. Yeah. And that I just can't say enough how impressive that is when you're in the regular world and people lead with a complaint rather than an excitement. It's time to turn the ship around.
Yeah. Well, Barbara would call that, accessing your genius. What is your deepest heart's desire? Accessing your genius, because everybody does have their own creative genius. It doesn't mean that they're all going to be whatever we have deemed genius. What we mean by that is the ability to access their specific heart-centered presence, which is a very individual vibrational frequency that has a very particular way in which it can create out into the world. And, Barbara always wanted to bring everybody's genius together,
Yes.
because that is where our power lies. That's it in
Exactly.
a nutshell. And that's what we are up to right now on the planet, is
Yes.
empowerment.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Perfect. It's perfect. Well, we've got some more conversations going back and forth between Zach and Angie, and Susie Jones joined us, and Noelle and Bob are here. So I wanted to see if there's any questions. Angie's talking about Angie and Zach are going back and forth about science. Uh, any science is only a reflection of the inner. In actuality, the science is not necessary and therefore really does not exist in any real way. So anyway, when you get a chance, you're going to want to see these comments so that you can maybe answer them and add to them. And then Angie's saying music is important because of the frequency. And
Yeah.
that's where that 528 comes through. And
Well,
frequency.
really, everything is music, everything is frequency, everything is light and vibration. So we are music, and one of my companies many years was music education company. I taught, had a whole staff of people that were teaching curriculum that I developed for children of 2, 3 years old to learn music and how to read and play, and all the way up through high school and orchestration, and the importance of that, the emotional development and the emotional empowerment that comes from having a connection to music is so powerful and important. Um,
Do you
that's
use
something
that,
that's missing.
do you use that as part of your process now?
Well, certainly the principles of harmonics, yes, and certainly music absolutely can take us into a state. Absolutely.
It's wonderful. So,
Hmm.
so when you've seen people change, can you give us any stories of things that you've seen where somebody was in a type A personality going for it, but they're so out of balance in the rest of their life, and that you were able to help them see and blossom to who they really are? Do you have any stories like that for us?
Sure. Is there something called a type B personality?
I don't know. I'm an A, so I don't know.
You're an A. You
Well,
consider yourself a type A?
yeah,
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
yeah, but
Oh,
I'm
good.
recovering.
So
Um,
I'm a type B A. I'm a bot.
Bob. Well,
I'm a bot.
if you're Canadian, you're always A. Eh?
Hey,
So,
hey. Let me get my snare drum. I'll do a little drum roll here.
no, I just
Uh,
thought that it would
no,
be
I love that.
interesting
Yes,
for
of
people.
course. I've worked with so many people. A lot of a lot of executives work with me, or my wife and I together. We lead programs as well together, and there's a lot of women that have been holding and carrying this masculine energetic, so they can really feel like they can partake in this working corporate world, right? But they cannot stay in that extreme all the time. They're miserable. They literally feel like they're going to fall apart and break down. So we've worked with a lot, or I've worked with a lot of female executives that have been holding this powerful masculine polarity and haven't yet been able to figure out how to bring their femininity into their leadership, into their work. And so really shifting their foundation from the masculine to the feminine energetic, having them value that, right? To really, that's what it really is that shift in valuing that the beingness is the foundational way for us to actually lead. And the masculine then supports the actionable steps required to bring the structure out into the workplace or whatever we're doing, right? So getting them familiar with just stillness, getting them comfortable with doing what I call wave activations, which is something I developed, and getting them into a state of being and accessing that is something that they're not familiar with, and they get familiar with it and their whole world opens up. They soften. And this is a physiological result as well, because whenever women are really heavily in the doing and doing, and they're not in the self-care and the nurturing, they're actually producing high levels of estrogen, which creates more anxiety, more stress, and discomfort, and really unhappiness, right? That can lead to depression and all of those things. But when they're introducing the self-care and the beingness and all of that, it brings our hormonal balance back into balance, our hormonal state of being back into balance. So this is physiological, it's body, mind, and spirit, right? And they notice huge differences. And they can lead from a much more empowered, sustainable. This is all about sustainability, right? Is the way in which we've been. Did you freeze? Thank you.
No, I'm still here. You froze. Uh-oh. Oh, we lost him. So the reason why I asked about the shifts that people have made is because in my experience, it takes courage. And even though you may reconnect to that heart place and that powerful knowledge within you, a lot of times it is the courage that comes from knowing that you are love and having a passion for expressing that. That's what I find is an impetus. So that's why I was seeing if Aaron had a specific way that he helps that occur. And we'll wait a few minutes and see if he can get back on. So anyway, I'll read some of the other things. We've got, Zach said, from a business standpoint, there's room for everyone. This flies in the face of the competitive market economy. That's a paradigm shift to align with conscious business. And I agree that it's amazing the difference that we're getting, that there's, when it's not just about, it's about the innovation that you bring to the marketplace. It's not about competition, because if you're authentically who you are, then your innovation is not, no one else can have that. They can copy it, but they can't have it. So thank you, Zach, and thank you, Angie, and thank you, Susie, and thank you, Noel and Bob are here, and Umar is here. So thank you very much. And I think I'm going to end the broadcast. Thank you, Aaron. I'll put up his website one more time so that if you get a chance, please check it out. He's quite remarkable. And I hope that you get a chance to experience him. I hope we'll have him back on here again soon so that you can have a wonderful opportunity to see the work of Barbara Marx Hubbard really land in Aaron's work. It's really fabulous. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming. And technology is always our friend here. It's always something. Thank you. Bye-bye.